Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my week number 9 must-start and must-sit wide receivers for fantasy football in 2021. Inside today's video, we're going to be going in-depth into my must-start wide receivers at the beginning of the video, and then about halfway in, we're going to be pivoting into my must-sit wide receivers based upon their matchups for week number 9. But before we can get into things, I would like to ask, if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure to leave a like on today's video. It would help us out a ton. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 9 must-start and must-sit wide receivers. We begin with the must-start category, headlined by wide receiver of the Buffalo Bills, Emmanuel Sanders, going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars this week in Jacksonville. Emmanuel Sanders was a huge disappointment last week in an excellent, a beautiful matchup up against the Miami Dolphins. All year, the Miami Dolphins pass defense and the run defense has been made of Swiss cheese. There are holes all over the place, and I personally expected the Buffalo Bills to roll the Miami Dolphins as they did earlier on in the season, and I thought it was entirely possible that Emmanuel Sanders might have a touchdown, might have 2 touchdowns in that game. But somehow, someway, the Miami Dolphins woke up to the occasion, at least earlier on in the game, and the defense was shutting down Josh Allen, and the passing attack, the rushing attack, wasn't working all that well for the Buffalo Bills either. But then in the second half of the game, they kind of kicked in the door, and they were beating down on the Miami Dolphins. But Emmanuel Sanders, even in the second half, did not have a good day, because in that game, he had only 4 targets, which resulted in 0 interceptions. So he put up a goose egg, a bagel, whatever you want to call it when a guy scores 0 points. That's what happened to Emmanuel Sanders. So I think that a lot of people are going to panic. They're going to start to get a little bit nervous because he had that one down game, and it wasn't like it was a down game where he got like 4 points. The man scored no fucking points for you, but at the end of the day, he was still involved in the game plan and still had some targets in that game. So going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars is the perfect scenario, the perfect matchup for him to have a big bounce back game. So I'm playing Emmanuel Sanders with confidence this week, even though he put up a dud up against the Miami Dolphins. Next up, we move to my next must-start wide receiver, Adam Thielen, wide receiver of the Minnesota Vikings, going up against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore this week. Over the last 2 weeks, Adam Thielen has been on fire in terms of fantasy football. He has scored a touchdown in each of his last 2 games. Last week up against the Dallas Cowboys in that primetime special, which typically is quite worrisome for Kirk Cousins, because we all know that Kirk Cousins absolutely sucks at playing football in prime time. In that game, he had 6 receptions on 9 targets. Very nice, 6 of 9 for 78 yards and a touchdown. So 6 of 9, 78 yards and a touchdown. That's pretty good. While being on fire in terms of scoring touchdowns, he has also been very involved in the team in terms of a very high target amount week in and week out. In the last 2 games, he's had 13 targets and 9 targets, respectively. Match the high target total with a solid matchup this week going up against the Dallas Cowboys, because while the Dallas Cowboys defense is great at turning the ball over, and I wouldn't be surprised if Kirk Cousins turned into a turnover machine in that game, I do believe that this could be a very high scoring matchup. At least it would seem that way going up against the Baltimore Ravens, who are a very solid offense. I do think this could be a higher scoring game, and if that is the case, then Adam Thielen could be able to put up a top 12 performance yet again in week number 9 up against the Baltimore Ravens. Next, must-start wide receiver, and the final must-start wide receiver before we pivot into the must-sits, is Jaylen Waddle, wide receiver of the Miami Dolphins, going up against the Houston Texans. Now, when I initially wrote the article that I write on my must-start and must-sit wide receivers, the must-start wide receiver was Devonta Parker, but Devonta Parker is now doubtful to play after suffering a setback in practice. We should be having a lot more confidence in Jaylen Waddle this week. Despite seeing 11 targets last week up against the Buffalo Bills, he only came down with 4 receptions for 29 yards. Going up against the Texans defense, he definitely has top 12 upside, in my opinion, because of his supremely high target share game in and game out from the Miami Dolphins. This man has had 32 targets in the last 3 games. There are wide receivers that would dream of having 32 targets in a whole season, and this man has had that in 3 games. I really do expect, with Devonta Parker out, that Jaylen Waddle is going to be peppered in targets in this game, and if the Dolphins defense doesn't wake up like they did in the first half of the game up against the Buffalo Bills, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Houston Texans were able to keep this game close and the Miami Dolphins were throwing the ball at a very high rate. With Tua Tagovailoa as the starting quarterback, this team has been sneaky, very pass-heavy game in and game out, so I do expect Jaylen Waddle to to put up a phenomenal performance up against a not-so-hot Houston Texans defense. Before we can get into the must-sit category, I would like to let you guys know that we have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NFL season to bring you guys some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited-time offer in which you guys get 1 free month of Awesemo plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link down below, deposit, and play. That's it. It's that easy. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest, and we'll reach out to you via email with your coupon. If you would like immediate access, that's all right as well. All you got to do is email support@awesemo.com. Again, support@awesemo.com, and we'll get you set up immediately. You can also claim a free $10 down below, which can be used to enter any Yahoo contest, including Sunday's $1 million contest. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give you guys the best shot at winning. Please make sure you guys check that down below. Yahoo Fantasy. Now we move to the must-sit section of the video, headlined by Christian Kirk, wide receiver of the Arizona Cardinals, going up against the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco. Christian Kirk has been an interesting start weekly due to the fact that he could be Kyler Murray's number 2 wide receiver game in and game out. While Cliff Kingsbury is trying to deploy some smoke screens with Kyler Murray's status up in the air on Sunday, there is a chance that he will not be there, and in my opinion, there is a very good chance he is not going to be there. Cliff Kingsbury's talking about how Mr. Kyler Murray's having these virtual snaps, how he's just getting in these mental snaps. What is he, playing fucking Madden on the sideline while everyone else is practicing? Is that what you're talking about, Cliff Kingsbury? Because I honestly don't understand why you would even risk playing Kyler Murray in this game. Just sit him down for 1 week and let him play next week. There was a lot of talk after the injury that Kyler Murray was going to be missing up until week 11, and we're sitting in week number 9. Just sit him down, and I honestly do not believe that Kyler Murray is going to end up playing. So with the potential of Kyler Murray missing the game and Colt McCoy taking the snaps, taking the risk on Christian Kirk, in my opinion, is just not worth it. He's a very risky player with Kyler Murray in the lineup. That risk with Colt McCoy under center is even higher, so I'm definitely sitting Christian Kirk down on the bench in this game. Next up, we move to Philly with wide receiver Devonta Smith, wide receiver of the Philadelphia Eagles, going up against the LA Chargers this week at home in Philadelphia. Despite being the clear number 1 wideout on the Philadelphia Eagles, Devonta Smith has struggled to find any consistency. He is one of the most inconsistent players game in and game out in fantasy football. Over his last 3 games, he has failed to eclipse 10 half PPR points in all 3 of those games. Last week, the Eagles went to a run-heavy attack in that game up against the Detroit Lions, utilizing Boston Scott and Jordan Howard very heavily, which led to a downtick in targets for Devonta Smith. He saw just 3 targets for 1 reception for 15 yards. And if Nick Sirianni figures out that, hey, you know what, if we run the fucking football, it's going to work. And if we keep running the ball, we're going to win some games. And if he just realizes that, if something clicks in his head and they start running the ball even more, then you have to be even less confident in Devonta Smith. I think Devonta Smith is a very talented wide receiver, but this is clearly not the best situation for him. So until he starts to show some consistency, I do believe you got to sit Devonta Smith down on the bench. Final player to discuss today is Randall Cobb, wide receiver of the Green Bay Packers, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. This is basically a wet dream matchup for most wide receivers, right? You're going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. But Cobb's situation is very similar to Christian Kirk, except for in Randall Cobb's situation, the Packers are to be guaranteed without Aaron Rodgers, and they may be without Aaron Rodgers this week as well as next week, and that makes Cobb's upside significantly lower. With Jordan Love under center, all the main pieces on the team like Devonta Adams, they should all be fine, but the uncertainty around the ancillary options like Randall Cobb, MVS, it just makes it very hard to decipher which one you want to be starting without Aaron Rodgers on the field. Even though Mr. Randall Cobb had 2 touchdowns up against the Arizona Cardinals last week and had a promising game, I just don't want to chance it up against the Kansas City Chiefs because there's a solid chance that Jordan Love just ends up sucking, and that doesn't end up boding too well for Randall Cobb. I do think that Jordan Love will have a fine game, but I think he is going to heavily target Devonta Adams in this game because Devonta Adams is the best wide receiver on the team. You just have to throw the ball anywhere near the guy, in any bit of range, and the guy's going to catch it. So I don't think Randall Cobb is worthy of a start with Jordan Love under center. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, make sure to leave a like on today's video as well. I love you guys all so much. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day, and as always, good boy.